My sister said, Herman, what's wrong with you? Are you all right? You're not what? I said, yeah, Beta. Starbucks got some strong coffee. I don't mess with Starbucks coffee to this very day.
Because the prison coffee was so weak. That's going to stick with me a long time, the story about you eating prison food after you got out for a month. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then, so you went to college coming out.
Yeah, when I came home, work was not an option. I needed to be educated. I already had a high school diploma. I went and enrolled in college. And once I got there, I went to the head coach and told him, hey, this is my story. I want to play football. And so when I came home, I still had that 21-year-old mentality. And I looked like I was about 22, 23 at best. And so although I was 34 years of age, he said, well, if you can make the team, you're in. So spring training came around. It was a lot of conditioning and running. And we had to do this final test. And then I made the team. And once I made the team, they gave us helmets, shoulder pads, all of that. And I was able to show them what I was made of physically at age 34. I was out there rocking these 18 and 19-year-old kids who was coming out of high school, All-American defensive end, All-American linebacker, and what have you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But I was out there tearing them apart. And I had hit a guy so hard one time, I knocked myself out. And so the coach took my helmet, which was my prized possession. I had to sit out for a week for concussion purposes and what have you. But we got back at it, and I played college football for 2 years at that particular college.
In your mid-30s. And then,
yeah.
And then one of the more extraordinary things about, I was going to say about your story, but really about you, is the aspect that deals with your father and how you dealt with this betrayal, this treason. Act
of treason.
Yeah. Which is, as someone who I grew up, my father was my hero and, and I can't even imagine on any level how empty and horrible that must have felt. But you did something that I think is extraordinary. And can you talk about that? I mean, what happened with you and your dad when you got out?
Yes, it's one of them situations where, like, when I remember coming up, and my father always demanded an explanation as to why I done something. And so all I remember during that time and coming home is that this man never came to visit me. He never wrote me. He never sent me money, packages, or none of that. So he was like he turned his back on me. But he did always tell us, I don't go visit people in jail. I put people in jail. I'm like, okay, so that was my thought then. And it wasn't until we did the documentary After Innocence with Mark Simon and Jessica Sanders, and they interviewed him, but they never told me what he had told them until the documentary was complete and it was now on the big screen. And I'm sitting in this theater and I'm watching him. And when they did his interview, out of his mouth came the explanation as to why he did what he did. He said, I went with the evidence instead of the love of the child. And I immediately got up. After that registered with me, I got up while the documentary was still going. I went to the hallway. I called my father. I said, I always wondered why you did what you did, but I just heard your explanation. And it was at that moment I forgave him because I understood that once you become a police officer, you are trained to think a certain way. And now that I'm going to law school, I'm being trained to think a certain way. He was trained to go with the evidence. I'm being trained to go with the facts and make sure that the evidence lines up with the facts. So I was able to forgive him right then and there. And this happened in 2005 when I just really got my explanation. And I went to my father and I told him, I forgive you. I get it. I understand. However, since the day I came home, my father has been spending majority of our time, and I've been home in 19 years. He has been spending majority of that time trying to make it up to me for the decision that he made. And I've been spending my time showing him I forgive you. You're my father. I love you. I talk to him regularly. I go visit him. But now I have to do it more so now than I have done over the last few years because now he's dealing with Alzheimer's and it's creeping up on him fast. And then I'm forced to stay with him to the bitter end because my greatest fear is now about to confront me. One day he's going to forget who I am. He's going to forget that decision he made. He's going to forget every life lesson that he taught me. He's going to forget
everything.
Yes.
Now you have a bunch of grandchildren.
Yes, I got 7 of them.
Yeah, so that's great. You'll be graduating law school. And
yes.
Awesome. And then California has never compensated you, and that is obviously completely unacceptable. It's ironic because you were one of the people that was really responsible for changing the compensation statute in California. It used to be, believe it or not, I'll let you tell it.
Well, it used to be $10,000. If you can prove that you were wrongfully convicted, you can get $10,000. Well, first of all, we didn't even know that law was on the books. Somehow or another, ACLU found it, and a couple of more other sharp attorneys found it. And we went in address, meaning me, several other exonerees, Natasha Minsker for the ACLU. We went before a panel. We were able to get that changed from $10,000 total to $100 a day. And when I doubled back to apply for it, they told me you get nothing because statute of limitations have ran out on you. I'm like, huh? Really? California owed me $500,000.
Yeah, and I think even then, $100 a day, that's $36,500 a year. And I think you'd have a hard time going out to the streets and asking people if they want to go into the situation. You're in a maximum security prison for $100 a day. You're not going to get a lot of takers for that.
They could give me, it'd be in their best interest to give me my money now, because once I become an attorney, then I'm going to come get it another way, and I'm going to keep getting it and getting it. And when they ask me, well, why are you these lawsuits and this, that, and other? Well, hell, you should have gave me my money.
Right. And now you're going to get it on behalf of other
I'm going to get
people,
it,
right?
yes.
Yeah, it's ironic, you being a football player, and there they were moving the goalposts on you, right? But that's the way it goes. So everything about your story is extraordinary. I'm really grateful that you shared your story with my audience and with me here on Wrongful Conviction. And then now comes my favorite part of the show. This is the part of the show where I get to actually just thank you, as I just did, and then turn my microphone off and just listen. And I leave it to you for the last few minutes for closing thoughts of anything you want to talk about, anything we didn't cover. Yeah, it's all you. It's your stage. Here
Here's the thing. I travel this nation. I speak on judicial reform. I work closely with the Innocent Project. I have dedicated my life to the work that they do. And there's some things that I found that contribute to our justice system being seriously flawed. But I first present this to anybody to hear my story. I say, each one, teach one, teach one, each one. And I present that challenge to the person, meaning what you have heard here today, go out and educate the next person. Because awareness is very important to solving any situation. And in this case, people need to be aware of the fact that we have a seriously flawed justice system. It has accounted for individuals being wrongfully convicted. There's a few individuals that has been killed in the justice system as a result of being wrongfully convicted and executed. And these are the things that need to stop. Now, the solution is let's start at the base of the problem. See, it's not the justice system. I've come to realize the justice system will work perfectly if we get the right people to operate within it. And the problem comes into play is when you got corrupt prosecutors who's getting wrongful convictions or causing wrongful conviction because they want to be politicians. They want to be judges. They want to be, councilmen and what have you. And because of that, they're willing to do anything to get a conviction. Then you got these corrupt police officers, Lord, not to mention how they just out here killing black males like it is the thing to do, like it's perfectly legal. Okay, we're dealing with a psychological problem. From the police department, we need to do two things. We need psych evaluation on these police officers, get them out of the way. And those that has caused problems, we need to, by way of pictures motions, we need to go into their background, figure out who they are, and start protesting to get them up out of there. And when you have a DA that don't want to file a case when clearly there has been a violation of the law on behalf of the police, they don't want to file a case, then we need to start looking at that DA. and shut that person down, when it comes down to elections and things of that nature. And you got to always remember who these people are, because what you fail to realize is the very people who was hollering back in the 80s and the 90s, tough on crime. Yeah, well, these people has caused a serious problem to Americans' justice system. It's busting at the seams. Taxpayers is paying for it. And now the taxpayers is looking back on it and they say, wow, we can't afford to keep inmates. Start letting them out, letting the ones with nonviolent offenses out, this, that, and another. Why? So you can cut the cost? Well, you should have thought about that when these politicians was hollering tough on crime. So in fact, let's weed them individuals out and get rid of them, get them out of office as well. We need to overhaul our justice system by removing the very individuals that are creating the problems. I would like to see laws change. I would like to see, when it comes down to compensation, that every state in America follow suit. I like how Texas has set their compensation package up, and every state in America should follow that. I think that should be a federal law that all states has to do one thing in all honor of compensation. One of the things that people fail to realize is that a person who has actually committed a crime can get out in any state and go to government-funded organizations and receive all types of help and resources to acclimate themselves back into society. A person who has been wrongfully convicted, such as myself, is told to go back out in society and function the best way you can. There is no compensation package wherever a person has been proven wrongfully convicted where he can go get an education, where he can go and get housing, where he can get transportation, where he can get psychological help, where he could turn around and be a productive citizen in society with some type of employment or what have you. There's nothing set up for that. And so I would like to see that change. I like to see laws like that change. But the biggest thing I want to see happen, and I pray to God that I live to see it happen, is have that badge of immunity removed from them prosecutors. If you violate the very law that you swore to uphold and protect, then you should be prosecuted by it if you have indulged in the taking of a person's life. Because when you put somebody in prison, be it for a day, be it for a month, be it for a year, be it for a decade, you have killed that person. You have killed that person. And the person that did it, the people that's involved, be it the prosecutors, be it the police, they all need to be held accountable for their actions. So I want to see accountability. I want to see that badge of immunity removed, not in one state, in all states. In all states, in all cities, regardless of how big or small or what have you. And I would like to see society as a whole start focusing on what's going on over in Kansas with this Belusky. Oh my God, that right there is textbook corruption. And if it went on there, it's just like the same thing that went on in California with the Rampart Division scandal. This stuff right here is common. The only thing that's bringing it to light now is social media. I thank God, because the regular media is not going to televise what a person holding a camera up to the situation would televise. That means it's up close and personal. And I thank God that you have those that hold your camera up. I advise that you hold them up high, because it is your heart, is your courage in the face of these corrupt police officers that is bringing about the truth in the matter.
Thank you. Dropping a lot of knowledge. And if you want to learn more about the Lubsky, listen to the Lamont McIntyre episode of Wrongful Conviction. You'll hear all about it. Thank you again for being here, Herman Atkins. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And I'll see you next week on Wrongful Conviction. Don't forget to give us a fantastic review wherever you get your podcast. It really helps. And I'm a proud donor to the Innocence Project. And I really hope you'll join me in supporting this very important cause, and in so doing, helping to prevent future wrongful convictions. It's easy. Go to innocenceproject.org to learn how to donate and get involved. I want to thank our amazing producers, engineers, and editors, Connor Hall and Kevin Wardis. The music in the show is by 3-time Oscar-nominated composer Jay Ralph. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Wrongful Conviction and on Facebook at Wrongful Conviction Podcast. Wrongful Conviction with Jason Flom is a production of Lava for Good Podcast in association with Signal Company No. 1 and PRX. Hi, I'm Jason Flom, and I'm excited to tell you about it.